Hi, just a quick note here. A beautiful day. Look at that. Not a breeze. Hopefully after 2 o'clock be able to burn. Nova Scotia during the burn season from March until October, I think it is. The government, depending on the weather conditions, and will tell you if you can burn, if there's a ban on, or if you can burn after 2 o'clock or 7 o'clock. So there's 3 different categories. Anyway, today it was raining all day yesterday, cloudy and foggy this morning. There's not a breeze here, so I suspect we're going to be able to burn after 2 o'clock. It's around 11:30, 12 right now, so I'm just getting ready. And there's a few little trees where I cut, not trees, but branches and things that are still stuck to some that need to be cut, and I just take the saw and work here for a little bit and get those cleaned up. I just thought I'd give a little tidbit about sharpening saws, and especially for those who've never been involved too much with chainsaws. First of all, I always recommend getting a guide, for the sake of probably less than $5. Helps you to give the right angle when you're sawing, or when you're sharpening the saw blade. This is still my old chain on here, but it tells you, and for mine it's 30 degrees, and there's a line here, and if you line up that line, go sort of the same way with the bar, and then it's about roughly a 10%, I think, incline. This way your manual will tell you, it might even be marked on the saw. And the same number of strokes, if you will, for each tooth, and each one of these are a tooth. One of the other things that's kind of interesting, though, if you note on your chain, there's one place and only one place only on the chain, usually, where you'll see these 2 teeth, both oriented the same way. Most teeth alternate. You'll notice them. One was sloped this way, the other one sloped that way, this way, that way. But there are 2, and that's done on purpose. And one of the things that will tell you if you're sharpening, where to start and stop. So if you starting at one place, you note where these are, start sharpening, and as you're going around, sharpening each tooth, and you keep going around until these come back again, you've covered every tooth and get sharpened. And then, of course, when you do one side, you turn the saw around and do the teeth on the other side, and same amount. If you do 4 or 5 strokes, whatever, 3 strokes, it doesn't really matter. I usually go 4 or 5 strokes with each full strokes of the file at the right angle, and that'll give everything relatively even. That way when you're cutting, the saw should cut straight. If you just did one side, then the saw will start to cut on an angle, if you will, cutting through. It won't cut straight and it'll be harder. So you have to cut both sides, and both should be all cut even, or sharpened evenly, same number. But that little tidbit, some people just know how to start and stop by looking for those teeth, the 2 teeth next to each other that are oriented the same way. It can give you an idea. Then when you're going around, you've got the saw. You covered every tooth on that one side. Go around the other side and repeat the same sharpening process. Just a little tidbit. Anyway, time to get to work. Flies are getting bad here right now. One thing, wind is great for no wind is great for burning, but it's not very good for standing around if there's mosquitoes out, because they love this kind of weather. Damp, rainy, and no wind. One of the other things you may notice when I'm using the chainsaw, when I start it, I lock the handle between my legs, between my knees, like this. It's something I learned on YouTube. I think it's the Husqvarna channel. It has some tutorials. And what that does is it locks the chain or the saw into place to help by putting one foot over the handle. When you pull it, it doesn't come up. Plus your hand is here to pick up the bar. You see all these people have been using it, and they just grab it and they're starting it like this, which if something happens, it's possible it could jump back at you. This way, it's locked between your legs, so it's much harder to jump. Plus your hand is much more straight and stiff to prevent it from going, or at least it would hit the safety brake. Ideally, you put it down on the ground, put your foot in the handle, but for me, I find that hard to do, especially with a bad hip. But so that's just a tip. You may want to check out the Husqvarna channel now for their tutorials. It's a lot of very good, useful information. Just another very quick tip for beginners. In the chainsaw, you've got two ports. One's for gas and one's for chain oil. Chain oil needs to go on as you're using it. It actually goes on the chain, helps keep it cool and well lubricated so it doesn't overheat when it's spinning around so fast going through the wood. Knowing which port, although they're marked, sometimes it's not clear. Just think chain oil goes where the chain is at the front. So chain oil in this one in the front, the gas goes at the back near the engine. Simple, easy way to remember, which is appropriate because the chain oil is going to go on the chain, which is at the front. The other thing is, that's also important to note, each time you're filling up with gas or whatever, you run out, the amount of oil that you use up for chain oil should be roughly around the same amount of gas that you burn. So they should be putting roughly, not exactly, there's a lot of variables there, but it should be close to the amount of chain oil that you're putting in, that you've burned, used up here as gas that you've burned in the saw. And if you're not going through the chain oil, sometimes that means you got a little, something's plugged up there, and it might be as simple as just cleaning out the front of the saw here. It might be blocked with some sawdust or whatever, but it is important. It doesn't have to be exact, but there should be roughly the same amount of oil being consumed as there is gas each time you fill up.